And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to be back with you. Thanks so much for joining me for tonight's virtual concert. That first tune was a ragtime composition by Brun Campbell. Was one of Scott Joplin's early piano students. And this was something that he recorded years later in the 1940s, looking back on what ragtime music sounded like in St. Louis in the 1890s. So that is called Chestnut Street in the 90s. And the reason I thought I would open with that is because my theme for tonight's concert is all the music that I have recorded on my CDs over the years. So I came up with a real good title for this concert, an album of old songs, which is exactly what it will be. And I used that tune as the title of one of my CDs, Chestnut Street in the 90s. And next up is a true ragtime waltz, my favorite of all of them. I don't really remember why, but I used this as the title of the first CD I recorded when I was about 13 years old. And this was written in the 1890s, 1898, by a black composer from Detroit, Michigan named Harry P. Guy. And it's called Echoes from the Snowball Club. I hope you enjoy. This is one of my personal favorites, certainly as far as ragtime waltzes go. Echoes from the Snowball Club. Thank you so much. That's Echoes from the Snowball Club. Let me double check my streams here. It looks like everything's working. Yeah. And, oh, good. Even got 3 followers on Twitch tonight. Appreciate that, everybody. Let's see. I'm going to jump right in and play another tune for you, which is another one that I used for one of the titles of my albums. And this one I was very proud of. This was sort of happened by accident. I was visiting Johnny Maddox in Tennessee, and I invited Ian Whitcomb, the old British rock star, to come visit us. And we were all going to try and make an album together at a recording studio in Nashville. And Johnny caught a cold that week, and so he didn't want to participate. And instead I called Danny Coots, who is one of the top drummers in the country, who lives in Nashville. And it ended up being me and Ian Whitcomb and Danny Coots, a wonderful little trio. And so for the title of the album, we used an Irving Berlin song from the ragtime years. It was actually written for a Broadway show called Stop, Look and Listen in 1915. This is I Love a Piano. And there's I Love a Piano. Thank you so much. Yeah, that album came out very well, and I'm so glad that I recorded that with Mr. Whitcomb. He was quite an expert on vintage American music of all types. I mean, he was part of the British invasion in the 60s, and then he started singing ragtime songs and playing the ukulele. I don't know if his wife Regina is listening tonight or not. I think she was going to join us, and that's always an honor. Now, of course, everything that I play tonight does not have to be off CDs. I am more than welcome to take requests, and if you're just joining us, I do accept virtual tips for my concerts. All you have to do is send in a tip on PayPal or Venmo, and if you don't trust PayPal, there's a P.O. box on my website for checks as well. And I appreciate it. You know, even though COVID has waned, this has helped my career a lot. It's very nice to be able to play a gig from home, and especially in the winter months when I don't have as many gigs. So I appreciate your help, and if you enjoy the music, that's great. Aha! Well, I see I've got a request here already from my friend Leo Roth, who's a ragtime kid that lives in Missouri, and he wants to hear a song that I used for the title of my very newest CD. This is a 2-piano album that I recorded with Domingo Mancuello from Pennsylvania, and he used a song that was written about 1918. This is right when ragtime was turning into jazz, so it's called Take Me to the Land of Jazz. I was planning to play this anyway, and the song was written in part by the prolific player piano roll artist Pete Wendling. And I really was not familiar with this tune until Domingo told me about it, and I just love it now. And we made a medley of it with another song from about 1920 called the Jazz Me Blues. So this is two tunes, just like they would have done on records of the 1910s, the way they would write the songs on the label. If there were two songs, they would say, "Take Me to the Land of Jazz," introducing Jazz Me Blues. That's Take Me to the Land of Jazz. Thanks for suggesting that, Leo. Now I did get, let's see, a request or two earlier this afternoon from my friend Nick Taylor. Are you listening, Nick? I'll try and play at least one of them for you if you're here tonight. And I see request. This is Luke Johnson. He must be a big country music fan. That's what you often ask me for. I remember. And if you stick around just a bit longer, I'll do some Bob Wills for you, sure. Let's see. Oh, good. I needed to check Facebook to make sure I'm seeing all the comments. Yeah, okay, Nick is here. Nick Taylor. Let me go ahead and... You asked me about Baltimore Totolo this afternoon. That kind of fits my theme for tonight. I'm doing songs from all the albums I've recorded over the years. This is one of my favorite Eubie Blake rags, and I recorded this on my very first CD, I think. I was about 13 years old. This probably dates from back in the 1900s or 1910s, but it's one of those rags that Eubie never had published or recorded until he was an older man in the 1970s. And of course, he was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. So this is called the Baltimore Totolo by Eubie Blake, and the Totolo was a dance of the ragtime era. I can't say I know anybody that really knows how to do that anymore, but it's a great rag. Baltimore Totolo. Baltimore Totolo. Thank you very much. Well, the famed ragtime pianist Bob Milne is listening again tonight. He was a personal friend of Eubie Blake, and he's just commented on something here in the chat, the Totolo dance. Apparently, Eubie told him that it was some sort of odd pronunciation of Toledo, Ohio. I didn't know that. Maybe that's where the dance came from. That's really interesting. That's news to me. You know, there are people like Bob who fascinate me because they're a direct link to the original ragtime piano composers. You know, I'm sure he knew a lot of the old jazz artists too, blues singers and so forth, and folk singers. And so there are stories like that no one has written down yet. And people like Bob know these things. It's very interesting. Let me see. Oh, okay. Well, glad you enjoyed that, Nick. I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm going to move ahead in time here a little bit and do a couple of songs from movies for you. And a couple of these songs I recorded on my two-piano album that I did with Frederick Hodges. Oh, I'm sure that's true, Bob. Yeah, even someone like Eubie may not have known the true story. The Totalo Dance, I also know Blossom Seeley did that out in San Francisco, so, it could have come from there. I don't know. Well, the next two songs are on that album with Frederick, and here is the song that we used for the title of the album. Now, I'd never heard it until Frederick told me about it. It was written for a movie called The Big Broadcast of 1935. And the movie starred, well, at least this song was sung by Lida Roberti and Jack Oakey. Jack Oakey was one of the great old-time character actors in movies. He always played like sort of vaudeville characters, and coincidentally, he was born in Sedalia, Missouri. Anyway, the song was written by Leo Robin, Richard Whiting, and Ralph Ranger. These are three fantastic songwriters that worked for Paramount Pictures in the 1930s. And this is the arrangement that Frederick and I worked up. It's called Double Trouble. Isn't that a great title for a two-piano CD? And I'm going to do it here, complete with a verse, kind of like we did on the CD. Double Trouble. Thank you very much. Double Trouble. Well, another one of the songs that I've done in my two-piano work with Frederick over the years is a song that was written for a movie in 1930, and it's a Universal picture. And the movie really starred Paul Whiteman and his orchestra. It also happened to have been Bing Crosby's first movie, and it's called King of Jazz. And all the songs that were written for that movie are really wonderful. Some people may argue that Paul Whiteman's music really wasn't jazz. It was sort of like white jazz. But I love it, and I finally was able to obtain original copies of all the songs from that movie, including the one that was cut from the picture. This is probably one of the more popular songs written for the movie. Lots and lots of bands have done this over the years. It's called Happy Feet. Hope you like it. Happy Feet. Thank you very much. Nice to see you tuned in again. This is for Alex Cooper. I see you here on Facebook. Incidentally, folks, if you enjoy the music, please share my live stream and hit the like button. And that's all. That goes for all websites, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I appreciate it. It helps with the social media algorithms. And, well, let's move on to some more of the music that I had planned to play tonight. And, I won't forget the Bob Wills request a little bit later on here in just a few minutes. But I'm going to play some music for you written by a songwriter named Glenn Rowell. And it just so happens that I've used several of his songs as the titles of my albums over the years. Let's do this one first. I can show you the original sheet music right here. And it's called Hum All Your Troubles Away. Now, that's not a song that's known very well at all. Glenn was a huge star on the radio in the 1920s and 30s, and also on records. He is not terribly well known because, many radio shows from that period do not survive, but he had a radio partner named Ford Rush, and they were called Ford and Glenn, and the biggest hit they wrote was called I Get the Blues When It Rains, the same year as this song, 1928. I'll do that one for you in a minute, but first we're going to do Hum All Your Troubles Away, and it begins with a Lee Sims piano solo chorus. Lee Sims composed many piano solo arrangements of pop songs in the 1920s and filled them with very lush and interesting harmonies. So you'll get to hear that at the beginning of the piece. Hum all your troubles away. Hum all your troubles away. Isn't that a great title for an album? Thank you, folks. Yeah, Bob, you may remember that when I was playing in Frankenmuth, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago now, that this songwriter, Glenn Rowell, his granddaughter came to the concert, so I got to play a whole bunch of these songs for her in Frankenmuth. She lives up in northern Michigan. That was very special. And he certainly wrote wonderful music, Glenn did. And the reason I know about him is because of Johnny Maddox. Johnny and Glenn did a 2-piano album together and toured the country for about 3 years together. And Glenn apparently was just a really special man. And so I'm going to play now a little bit longer medley for you of Glenn's songs. We're going to start out with a pretty waltz. No, we're going to start out with I Get the Blues When It Rains, which was his big hit. And then we'll do a pretty waltz he wrote in 1926. It was a hit for Ford and Glenn. It's called I Wish You Were Jealous of Me. I also recorded that one with the late Ian Whitcomb. And then we'll do these songs I have sitting here on the piano. Seven Little Stars and The Man in the Moon. These last two are from the early 1940s. And these are the only original copies of these songs I've ever been able to find. And I used Seven Little Stars as the title of my duet album with Johnny Maddox. And then we're going to do a kind of up-tempo number called On a Circular Staircase. And I use that as the title of one of my CDs too. I just think they're great pieces of music. Very, sort of classic, popular music. That's of the 1930s, 1940s. That's the style. Well, Glenn was very successful for his whole career. He died in the mid-1960s, a little bit young. They found a tumor in his mouth that was cancerous. He died in 1965. and I think he was only about 65 years old. But I'm very fortunate to have learned all about Glenn from Johnny. In fact, I even have a lot of his personal collection. You can see tonight in the live stream, hanging on the wall by my cylinder player in the back, you can see some of Glenn's autographed pictures. I see Charlie Chase and Russ Columbo are in the screen. And those are all pictures that belong to Glenn. They're still in the same frames that he put them in, probably in the 1920s and 30s. And so here is a little medley in tribute to Glenn Rowell. Thank you very much. All music by Glenn Rowell. You know, the way Johnny talked about him, he was just the most wonderful man that he'd ever met in his life. In fact, I was going through Johnny's scrapbook one day, and I found some letters from Glenn, and he had written in the scrapbook, Glenn was the most wonderful man I ever knew in my life, and I just started to cry. I'll never forget that. It was very special. Those four tunes that I just played were I Get the Blues When It Rains, I Wish You Were Jealous of Me, Seven Little Stars and the Man in the Moon, and then On a Circular Staircase. So that's the music of Glenn Rowell. I've used those some of those songs as the titles of my albums over the years, and incidentally, you can still get most of the CDs on my website. I updated my website sometime last summer, over a year ago, so now you can order them all directly from me. It's more helpful to me than using a third-party website because I get to keep all of the profits. And most of them are still available. I don't have any more of some of the earlier ones. I do not sell Chestnut Street in the 90s or Circular Staircase, and I don't have any more of the ones that I did with Frederick Hodges, either Double Trouble. Those are all sold out, and I probably won't be doing any more pressings of the CDs because it's, well, I just have so many others that I still need to sell, including the newer ones. Now let's see, let me check YouTube real quick. I don't know if Luke Johnson's still listening. Let me know. Type here in the chat, and I'll do one of the Bob Wills songs for you. I did do a Western swing album, believe it or not. Outside of ragtime and early jazz, probably one of my favorite genres of music is Western swing. I love Bob Wills. I think he's especially interesting because he bridged a lot of different musical styles. He played everything from rags and fiddle breakdowns to country songs and even black blues numbers, songs that people like Bessie Smith recorded. Okay, great. This fellow wanted to hear some Western swing. So I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll do San Antonio Rose, which coincidentally was also Johnny's very first hit record in the early 1950s. San Antonio Rose, kind of in his style. And that'll fill our Bob Wills quotient here. much. San Antonio Rose. Bob Wills wrote that as an instrumental in 1938. And then the Irving Berlin Music Company wanted to publish the song. And about 2 or 3 years later, he wrote lyrics for it. And it was published, and it became his biggest hit record, which ironically, the original record had no fiddle playing on it whatsoever. At the beginning of World War II, Bob Wills had more of a big band. He had the trumpet players and all that kind of thing. So it's a wonderful record. Tommy Duncan had a very special voice, and I saw the request for Faded Love. I think I'll skip that tonight, guys. If you want to hear more of the Western swing tunes that I play, you can get the CD off the website. I did this album with a local country musician named Jeff Johnson, and it's called Southwestern Swing, since it's all musicians from the Southwest. Now, let me do something for you from the CD that I recorded live at the Diamond Bell Saloon here in Durango. I never thought I'd want to do a live album, but you know, the funny thing is, after I did it, I was very happy with it. It has a certain feeling to it that recordings you do in the studio just don't have. And so here's something that I did, just kind of off the cuff. I had a recording engineer come in the saloon 2 nights in a row, and a lady asked me to play a song from World War I called Katie. And so I improvised an entire medley of World War I songs, and I was happy with it, happy enough with it, that I included the entire thing on the CD. It's a 2 CD set, by the way. And so let's do my World War I medley. All of these are really ragtime songs from late in the period. And it starts with Katie, and then I do a real pretty ballad called Just a Baby's Prayer at Twilight for Her Daddy Over There. And we'll follow that up with How You Gonna Keep 'Em Down on the Farm. And let's see, what else did I do? It may not even be the same songs. I don't know. We'll do Smiles, written by piano roll artist Lee S. Roberts. And then Till We Meet Again, a pretty waltz, written in part by Richard Whiting. And after Till We Meet Again, we'll finish the whole thing with George M. Cohan's famous Over There. I think that's all the songs. There might be one I'm forgetting. I don't think I played It's a Long Way to Tipperary. That's a great song, but I don't think it's on the CD. This should be most of them. So here's my World War I medley. That's my World War I medley. And, well, let me go ahead and do another commercial here. If you're just joining us, I do accept virtual tips for my concerts. It's very helpful if you enjoy the music. You know, this helps my career, allows me to keep doing this for a living. And you can send in a tip on PayPal or Venmo. There's also a P.O. box on my website for checks. And if you want to order some of these CDs that I'm talking about tonight, if you're interested in that, you can get them directly on my website as well. The website has my middle initial in it, adamgswanson.com. Well, I'll try and get in some more requests tonight. I've got a few more things I want to do from my CDs. I might do some Tom Brier at the end of the program because I did do a CD of modern ragtime pieces. So stick around and I'll do that. Let me check Facebook here real quick. Looks like things are working. Now, I'll tell you something. When I was doing that live CD set at the Diamond Bell Saloon, there is something I wish I had recorded that I didn't think of doing during the 2 nights that I had the recording engineer in there. So let me play it for you now. I'm going to do a big medley of Cowboy and Indian songs, all from the ragtime era. And there was one tune that started a craze for these Cowboy and Indian songs. It was written by Charles N. Daniels, and it's called Hiawatha. Now, supposedly he wrote that tune on a train, and that was the inspiration behind the melody, but it was named after Hiawatha, and so it became an enormous hit, an Indian intermezzo, as they were called in those days, 1902, I believe. And then I'll follow that up with a whole bunch more. We'll do Red Wing by Carrie Mills, My Pony Boy, a song called Cheyenne, and then one from about 1907 or 1908 called San Antonio, not San Antonio Rose, this is a different song, and then My Navajo, and 2 songs by Percy Winrick, Rainbow and Snow Deer Rag, and the long medley ends with a couple of choruses of Ragtime Cowboy Joe. So this is my Cowboy and Indian medley, which I often play in the Diamond Bell. It would have been a perfect thing to include on that CD set. I wish I had thought of it at the time, so I want to play it for you now. Here's my Cowboy and Indian medley. Ragtime Cowboy Joe. Thank you very much. Well, those are all my Cowboy and Indian songs. Hope you enjoyed that. Leo, I bet you recognize the Percy Winrick songs. He's from Springfield, Missouri. Percy Winrick was a ragtime composer from Joplin, Missouri. Anyway, I see Bonnie Minton has joined us. Oh, so nice to hear from you, Bonnie. I was just in Sacramento at the Ragtime Festival and asked Matthias about you. I hadn't seen him in almost 3 years. This is Matthias Bombal, a movie critic who's a friend of mine. And, well, we're going to go from the wild now to the sublime. And I'd like to play for you, let's see, should I do them both? Yeah, why not? I'm going to do a couple of songs for you by a composer named Dana Suesse. And she became known as the Girl Gershwin in the 1930s. I used one of her pieces of music for the titles of one of my best CDs. I think the two best ones are probably the Diamond Bell album and this other one called Jazz Nocturne. Dana Suesse wrote Jazz Nocturne about 1931, and a couple of years later, words were added to the song and it became known as My Silent Love. So I'm going to do Jazz Nocturne and then follow that immediately with what was probably her biggest hit song from 1934, You Ought to Be in Pictures. Hopefully a lot of you will recognize that one. So here's two songs by Dana Suesse. so much. When I recorded it, I did not include You Ought to Be in Pictures. Later on, I thought, it's kind of neat to add that other song onto the end of Jazz Nocturne, since it's slightly more familiar to people. So that's how I've been playing it lately. And when I did that album, Jazz Nocturne, I'm still very proud of that. I recorded it in my parents' living room on their gorgeous 9-foot Yamaha concert grand piano. And it features a lot of 1920s and 30s popular music. There's no ragtime on it whatsoever. It's all like songs from Bing Crosby movies. It includes the Dana Suesse music, another piece that she wrote called Afternoon of a Black Fawn, as well as my Gershwin medley, which includes most of the original Rhapsody in Blue. And so that's why I'm rather proud of that CD. Now let me play you a quick novelty piano solo by the king of novelties, Zez Confrey. And when I was doing one of my early CDs, a lot of the albums I've done are all on Rivermont Records, which is run by Brian Wright, the nicest guy in the world. He's also the most professional, I think, when it comes to producing these albums. It's very scholarly in presentation and so forth. And he suggested that I use this tune for the title of an album. It's called Sunshine from the Fingers by Zez Confrey, about 1937. And there's Sunshine from the Fingers. Thank you so much. At the time that I recorded that CD, I had just finished competing for 3 years in a row at the World Championship for Old-Time Piano Playing Contest. So that particular album includes a lot of the songs and the arrangements that I had worked up for that contest. So I'm still fairly proud of that one too. And incidentally, I also don't want to make this entire concert sound like a commercial. I really don't mean it that way. I just thought it would be a fun theme for tonight's concert. And I've got a couple of more things I want to do for you. I also want to get in some requests. I saw a request for my own piece, Novice Novelty. I might play that in a minute, so stick around. Oh boy, the Alamo Rag. I don't know that by heart, that's for sure. Doing pretty well on viewership tonight. I have who I think is a really very good piano technician coming up to tune my piano from Albuquerque, and he's coming to tune it on Saturday, which means that it'll sound just great on Sunday for my next virtual concert. I don't know what my theme for next Sunday will be. If you have suggestions, folks, go ahead and send them along. I'll be playing next Sunday night, and then the week after that, I'll do my ragtime style Christmas program. And I've got a couple of new songs I'm going to learn for that I'm excited about. So get ready to tune in the next 2 Sundays in a row. I'll be back. You know, I've got a number of friends and fans that live in Australia because I did a tour over there, and I'll play for you an Australian piece next. I just absolutely love this. And after I did my tour over there, I recorded some authentic Australian ragtime pieces as a favor to my friend Michael Matthew. And I decided, rather than pressing a real CD, that I would release them digitally. So I released this one digital album on my website. That's the only place you can get it. And it's all Australian ragtime. And at the end of it, I included 3 novelty piano solos by a man that I think is one of the most talented Australian composers. He lived in Sydney and played at a movie theater there in the 1930s and 40s. His name was Sefton Daly, and I know that he was friends with Noel Coward. He's probably the best Australian composer alongside, say, Percy Grainger and in the more popular field, Jack O'Hagan, who wrote Along the Road to Gundagai. And so this is a novelty piano solo. I found the original music to this when I was there from 1943, later in the period. It's called Color Scheme. I'll play it for you now, and if you want to hear more of those, you can get the Ragtime Australia album and download it off my website. But for now, here's Color Scheme. That's Color Scheme. You can see why he titled it Color Scheme, just the harmonic beauty of that piece. I know there are musicians who see colors depending on whatever key you're playing in, but I am not one of them, that's for sure. Oh, hello to my new friends in Aztec, Debbie. I'm glad you found my concert tonight. This is My Night to Dream. That's a gorgeous song. Afraid I don't know it by heart. And I'll do some more of the Percy Winrig rags on a future concert. This is to Alan there. I think I did them not too long ago, which is why I don't want to repeat them quite yet. Let me close out tonight's concert by doing some of the tunes off my album called Revival Ragtime. And the meaning behind that title is Music of the Ragtime Revival. That is from the 1950s ragtime revival up to today. Contemporary ragtime piano music, or contemporary, relatively speaking. I have to add that in, I think. And so I could do one of mine. Let's see. Well, let's do Novice Novelty, because I got requests for that. That was for Amy and somebody else here on Facebook. Hold on a second. Oh, I'm also seeing requests here on Facebook for me to record some more CDs. A Christmas album, and I saw someone suggested I do another Diamond Bell album. I hate to tell you that, the CD market is dwindling, and I have so many to get rid of. I ordered 500 copies of the CD I recorded with the Peacherine Ragtime Orchestra, and also the one I did with Domingo Mancuello. 500 copies each of those, and I have hardly gotten rid of any of them in a year, 2 years. It's been almost 3 maybe since I recorded with the orchestra. And so I really need to get rid of some of those first. If you want to help me along, just send virtual tips, because then that allows my income to increase. And it costs a lot of money to have 500 or 1,000 copies of a CD pressed. It really does. Plus whatever expenses there are as far as the recording session itself. That's hopefully explains the situation there a little bit. Now let's do it. Novice Novelty. This is the first fairly decent rag that I wrote, and it's really in the novelty piano style of the 20s, and it's named after a very small town in Texas where my grandfather was born, Coleman County, Texas. It's called Novice, Texas, and the family legend is that my grandfather was born in a cabin on a ranch there in Novice that was built by Davy Crockett, and so that's why it has a cabin on the cover of the sheet music, an old log cabin. And I thought it was a cute title. Novice Novelty. That's A Novice Novelty by me. Thank you very much, folks. And let's see. Well, I saw another question from Bonnie there. I guess it would be appropriate to discuss this. You know, I said that CD sales are down. What I find at my live engagements, what few there are, is that many people say, oh, well, I don't have a CD player in the car anymore. So I don't sell quite as many as I used to. And I think it's a shame, frankly. I think if you care about music very much in your life, you would have a CD player in your home. I mean, I use my computer and rip all the CDs to my computer. I play them all the time when I'm at home. And granted, some cars still have CD players, but I'm hoping that the physical media will never die completely. But yeah, streaming and downloads really have taken over, and I have thus far resisted selling flash drives. I really don't want to. I just don't feel like that's a quality product to sell to people. And furthermore, I make very little in profits on the downloads compared to the physical CDs. I mean, it's just minuscule. You know, 99 cents, which is divided between me and the streaming services and so forth compared to the real CDs. So anyhow, that's the case on that. Now, why don't I finish up tonight's concert with a couple of Tom Brier rags? I think he's probably the most gifted of the modern day ragtime composers. And there's a couple that I thought I might play tonight. I'm going to skip Razor Blades because I have played that so many times, and maybe do some of the other ones. He's so gifted and has written many things that are really very melodic and fun and wonderful. So let me check YouTube really quick. Well, let me do one that I recorded on that album, Revival Ragtime, and then I'll do Spasmodic, because I've now had 2 requests for it. This first one is a lot of fun. I learned this because it's a favorite of Frederick Hodges. It was composed by Tom Brier, and it's called Elephant Tracks. I'm not going to tell you what Frederick calls it. The title is Elephant Tracks. And for you musicians, it's very difficult to play. It is written in the key of G flat, and then it goes to C flat. So you can imagine how much fun I have with this. Elephant Tracks. Elephant Tracks. Thank you so much. Well, you know, if I did record another CD, it would not be would not be very commercial, I don't think. But what I'd really like to do is a Revival Ragtime Volume 2, and features some more of the pieces written by my friends and contemporaries. There's some rags by Bob Milne and David Thomas Roberts, and some more by Tom Brier, one or two of my own that I'd really love to record. And so, I don't know, I might do that at some point. I've also thought about recording a more jazz-flavored album in the future, because I figured that might be a little bit more commercial. But anyhow, let's do Tom Brier's Spasmodic. If I ever do Revival Ragtime Volume 2, this is one of the tunes I'll record. So here we go with Spasmodic. Thank you so much. There's Spasmodic, written by my friend Tom Brier. I sure miss playing with him. We had a lot of fun at the Ragtime Piano Festivals, playing duets together for a number of years. And, well, thank you so much for listening tonight, folks. I do appreciate the virtual tips. I'm not just saying that, I really do. And I'm excited about playing for you next week. I'll be here to play virtual concerts the next 2 weeks in a row. Next Sunday night, I'm not sure what my theme will be for next Sunday night, but I will announce it on Facebook as always. And then the week after that, I'll be doing my Christmas concert like I have the last 2 years in a row. That will be a lot of fun. So thanks so much for listening tonight, folks, and I'll look forward to next week. Good night for now.